So if you're starting with your grade 2 first lesson, you will have new notes for grade 2. Let's take a look at page 2. Now that we have learned all the lines and spaces of treble and bass clef, it's easier for us to find the ledger lines. So what you have to do here is find the closest note you already know and then count steps up from that note. For example, if you take F, so you can count space, line, space, line. So you have 4 steps up from F. So now you count the alphabet from F. G, A, B, C. So we have 4 steps up. This note is a C. So I'm going to write my answer C. If you take a look at this note, it's already a C. So let's dive in and write out the answers. Now remember, if you have a flat or a sharp in front of the note, always call it B flat. So this will be F sharp. If you don't have enough room to write the full word sharp, you can just write a small sharp. Alright, so once you're done with this, you can move on to the third page and complete your answers on the bass clef. Here you have other names that are used for the bass clef and the treble clef. Just know that the treble clef can also be called a G clef because it starts on the second line of the treble clef, which is a G. And the bass clef has another name which is called F clef because it starts on the fourth line, which is an F in the bass clef. Okay, let's move on to the next lesson. Let's turn to page 4 on note values. So when it comes to grouping notes, the same rules we studied for grade 1 will apply here. So you want to read this out really carefully. Quavers with a single low beam together last for a half a crotchet beat each. So this is a half a count note. And if you have a dotted crotchet, that means half of a crotchet will also be added. That means a crotchet has a full beat. The dot means half of that beat. So this total count will be 1 for crotchet and the dot will have an extra half. So the total count will be 1.5 counts for the dotted crotchet. So we use the dot to extend a note within the bar. So you will always find a dotted crotchet followed by a quaver because we don't just want to have 1.5 beats hanging there in the bar. So we want to complete and add another half to complete the second beat. So here is your beat 1 and the dot and the quaver will make your second beat. See that? Right. So there's also the rule when it comes to 4/4 time signatures. You can combine first and second beats together, and if there are quavers, you will group them in 4s. You don't have to group them 2 separate quavers each. So you can combine beat 1 and 2 and beat 3 and 4 and beam them together. Just make sure you don't cross the middle 2 beats, that is the second beat and the third beat. We don't want to combine that. Next you have the semiquavers. If you're grouping and adding semiquavers to your rhythm, you will want to have 4 semiquavers to the time of a crotchet beat. So the semiquavers are like 4 subdivisions of a full beat. So let's take a look at your exercise 1. Add the total number of crotchet beats in these note values. All you have to do is write the number of count and then keep adding the total of the counts. So a dotted crotchet will have 1.5 beats, a quaver will have half a beat. Okay, so you have All of this added together will make 3 crochet beads in a bar. So let's take a look at the first one on page 5. We have a dotted minim. Again, the dot means half the value of the given note is added. So a minim, you know, it's a 2 count note, plus the dot has half the count of 2, so it will be another 1 count added to this. So 2 plus 1 equals 3 counts. So you have to take in the dotted minim as 3 counts. So 3 plus 1 plus 1.5 plus half equals 6 crochet beads in a bar. Okay, so once you're done with that, let's move on to question number 2. Fill in the colored boxes with correctly grouped quavers to complete the bars. So you can see the first one is a 2/4 time, and 1.5 beads are given, and all you need to do is add another half. Then if you also have a 4/4 time signature, and let's take this as the last bead, bead number 4, then all you need to do is complete the rest of the bar with quavers. So like I said, you can combine the first and the second beads together, so you will have 4 quaver notes beamed together, and for your third bead you need to add 2 separate quavers because you can't join them together with the second bead. Okay, so bead 1 and 2 is here on the first 4 quavers, and bead 3 is included in the next 2 quavers. Alright, so my bar is completed. Let's move on to the next one. Look at the next one. We have an empty bar. We need to have 8 quavers, 2 each for 1 crochet. We usually beam quavers together in group of 4s or 2s. So in this case I'm going to combine my bead 1 and 2 together with these 4 quavers, and bead 3 and 4 I can have another group of 4 for the next 2 crochets. Okay, my last question, I can add another 2 crochet beads with 4 quavers here. So I'm done with that, and let's move on to the next question. Question number 3. Write a dotted crochet at the beginning of each bar and complete it with single quavers or crochets. You have to write a dotted crochet at the beginning of every bar. So let's first write that out. Next we have to complete it with a single quiver and crochets. All you have to do is write the dotted crochet, and we know that a dotted crochet is always followed by a quiver. So let's write in the quavers, and now all we have to do is complete the rest of the bars. So let's take a look at the time signatures here. First one is a 4/4 time, so we have 1.5 beads plus a half equals 2 beads, and we just need to add in the next 2 beads. So I'm going to write 2 crochets. So if you decide to write 4 quavers, you can also complete the bar like this. Beam the 4 quavers together for the third and fourth beads. Next you have a 2/4 time signature, so that is completed. 1.5 plus half equals 2. Then the last one we have 3/4 time. We have 2 beads already completed, and all we need to do is write the last crochet bead. So you can also add 2 quavers beamed together if you wish. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, let's take a look at the last question. Here is where you can get creative. Write 4-bar rhythms using the note values you know. First, let's write out the bar lines. Make sure you have little space on the last bar because you want to have a single note at the end. It's like a musical sentence. So if you're ending a sentence, you will want to have a full stop. It's something like that. So we need to plan the rhythm out by clapping this. You can use tie for dotted crotchets, and T for quavers, and ticka ticka for semiquavers, and then ta for crotchets. Let me do an example for you. You can complete your bar with any kind of notes that you wish. They are not asking you to write rests here, so maybe you should avoid them in this question. So I decided to have 4 quavers on my first bar. That will make up to 2 crotchets, and my second bar I plan to have 2 crotchets. Let's try and keep this simple. So you want to complete the first 2 bars and clap your rhythm. Tit 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 ta ta. Okay, so that's my rhythm. So I want to complete my next 2 bars into something similar to that. So you don't want to have something totally different from the first 2 bars, because your rhythm has to rhyme and someone has to flow in with your rhythm. So you can repeat some patterns that you used here. So instead of writing 4 quavers this time, I'm going to add 2 quavers and a crotchet on my third beat. Slightly different, but I'm still using the same notes. Okay, tit 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 ta ta, tit tit ta. Then on the last beat I want to have a single note to have a full ending. So let me have a minim note here. So let's try and clap this. Tit 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 ta ta, tit tit ta 2. Okay, if you're counting with numbers, you can also count 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So this time I'm going to start with a crotchet beat. Okay, so this time I want to have 4 semiquavers for 1 crotchet, and that's my first beat. And for my second beat I want to have 2 quavers, and my last beat I'm going to have a crotchet. Let's see how this sounds. Ta ti ti ta, ticka ticka ti ti ta. Okay, ta ti ti ta, ticka ticka ti ti ta. So maybe I want to repeat the first bar here again. I can do that if I want to, or maybe slightly change it. I think I'm going to just repeat the same rhythm that I wrote on the first bar, because it will create a pattern and I think it will rhyme. Okay, like I said, there's no hard or fast rules. You can do whatever you like as long as it adds up to the time signature. Okay, so let's see how this sounds. Ta ti ti ta, ticka ticka ti ti ta, ta ti ti ta, ta 2. Yeah, so I think I like this rhythm. If I want to change it, I can erase some of these notes and just move them aside and see what else I could come up with. So make sure you create in ideas. Alright, so this is what composers love to do. They write and they erase and they rewrite until they find a rhythm that they are happy with. Okay, so you also can try this. So this week you can complete all your work up to page 6 and send in your answers for corrections. I'll see you next time.